we got a flat tire on the way to the game. So I had to change a tire. Of course, I got blisters all over my hand from changing the tire.
こんにちは、ナビゲーターのはじめです。今回は来日2年目を迎えた助っ人外国人でセットアッパーのジョン・エドワーズ選手のインタビューをご紹介します。今回はまずジョン・エドワーズ選手の子供時代について伺いました。それではどうぞ。
Yeah, I was always kind of a quiet kid. I was always really big, like twice the size of everybody else, I think, that was my age. I can remember, by the time I was, 8, 10 years old, having to take my birth certificate to tournaments to prove that I was, actually that age so I could play. But yeah, I grew up in a Christian home and I, always loved baseball, loved sports. I played football, basketball, and baseball. And, I think from the time I was 4 years old or so, baseball was kind of my first love out of all the sports. I liked them all. And there were times when I thought maybe I wanted to be a football player or a basketball player, but I enjoyed sports. I was kind of quiet and I guess really big. So.
いろいろなスポーツを経験したこともあったエドワーズ選手。その中で野球選手を目指したきっかけ、またそこからメジャーに入ってからの挫折について話してくださいました。
And from the time I was a little guy, like 4 or 5 years old, as I mentioned, I think I drew a picture in school of a baseball player and a preacher. And my parents, I believe, still have that picture somewhere that I drew. But I think with that dream and then the encouragement of my family and the people around me my whole life, I just kept pressing towards baseball. So that desire just grew. And then my family, my father, my parents really encouraged that dream in me when I was growing up. But there was also a lot of people that, said, do you know how hard that is? Only 1% of people make it to the big leagues. And so there was also a lot of that. And I think for me, that was also a big motivating factor that I really just wanted to prove that I could do it. And I wanted to prove those people wrong. And so, and I would say that motivated me at times as well. So there's kind of both angles there. And yeah, I think that it just was a desire that grew stronger and stronger as I got older and I saw that opportunity in front of me. I mean, to start, when I was in high school, I would say I wanted to mix in, be cool with the guys and all that stuff. And I had my buddies and then I got drafted and, I thought that was super cool. And as I mentioned, I grew up in a Christian home, but I was also definitely influenced by the world. And there was a period where when I first got drafted, especially where I don't know if you want to call it my college years or what you want to call it, but I kind of just ran with the crowd and was really trying to identify as a baseball player. I've had my whole identity, and I think that was one of the things that I struggled with early on was that I had my whole identity wrapped up as a baseball player because that was the desire. That was what I wanted to do my whole life. And so when I got released in 2010 by the St. Louis Cardinals, that was the first time in my life that I kind of was like, I'm not a baseball player at this period of time, And in fact, I can remember, a lot of people that I knew it just seemed like to me that they were treating me a little bit different. I wasn't Big John, the baseball player. It was kind of like I failed, And so there was kind of I'd say a year or so there where we were talking before this about how I played in San Angelo in independent ball. And at first I didn't want anything to do with independent ball. I thought I was too good to play independent ball. And so my pride was kind of, up there. And then
独立リーグに移ることになったエドワーズ選手。そこで彼にあるターニングポイントがありました。
Yeah, like I said, I went to independent ball, and by the time I decided to play independent ball, I was like, okay, Lord, once I started praying about it, I started asking God, like, what do I do? Am I supposed to play baseball? Like, what do you want me to do? I thought I was supposed to be a baseball player. I was convinced that I was, and now I'm here. And so then I felt like the Lord spoke to me clearly and said, yeah, I want you to keep playing baseball. And so that was the opportunity that was in front of me. So I went to San Angelo. I played for maybe a couple months there as an outfielder. But when I went, I really went with probably the most humble attitude I had had in a while, and I went just willing to do whatever. I was like, I'll play outfield, I'll play first base, I'll pitch. I was just throwing stuff out there that I hadn't done since in a long time, just to let the coach know like that I wanted to play. And so I did, and as I mentioned, I still kind of was struggling with things at the field. I would say at first I was doing pretty good, like I was staying pretty straight, and then as I started connecting with guys on the team, again, I started kind of running around with them a little bit, and just being influenced by them, and then I say that because I think it had a lot to do with my struggling on the field sometimes also. But I didn't play for a few days, and then my manager came over and said, well, actually the pitching coach that was on the team, he told the manager like, hey, John threw a bullpen earlier in the season or in spring training or whatever, and it looked pretty good. Maybe we should look again. And so I threw another bullpen for the manager. And like I said, he was his name was Doc Edwards, and he played for the New York Yankees back with like Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford, I believe, that era. And then he also managed the Cleveland Indians, and he still, he definitely knew the game of baseball, and he had a lot of connections. And he said, I think you got a shot at this. And I was touching maybe like 94, 95 miles an hour in my bullpen and throwing strikes. And he sat me down and said, yeah, I think you got a shot if you want to go for it. And I was like, okay, so I do. And he sent me to another team in Alpine, Texas called the Alpine Cowboys. And I pitched 3 times there before I ended up straining my groin muscle. And after that, I decided I was going to go home and rest and then get ready for the next season. And so when I got called up to the big leagues with the Texas Rangers, I was the first player to play in that league, in the Pecos League, and make it to the big leagues, that was kind of the journey. Was started pitching there, and then that offseason, I threw a bullpen for the Rangers scout, and they signed me the next day. It was like right around Christmas time, I believe, actually, and then went to camp with them and shot up through their system pretty quickly and was in the big leagues in 2014 for the first time. Yeah, I got called up from Round Rock, which was about a 3-hour drive from Arlington, and we got a flat tire on the way to the game. So I had to change a tire. Of course, I got blisters all over my hand from changing the tire. And I got there as the national anthem was going on, and I signed a major league contract. I threw my uniform on and I ran out to the bullpen. And then what was really cool about that experience, though, was how, I don't think I could feel my fingers all day anyways, but what was really cool about that experience was how God spoke to me going to the game when we were driving. He said, I remember hearing it so clearly, but he said, you're going to pitch tonight, and the first guy you're going to face is Albert Pujols. And he prepared me for that, because I got there, I threw my uniform on, it was chaotic. I signed my contract, I ran out, and a few innings later, I was warming up, coming in the game to face Albert Pujols. So it happened literally just like that. And I remember throwing pitches, and to be quite honest, they were just close enough to the strike zone that he swung at them, and I was so thrilled that he just swung, because I was like, I have no idea where this is going to go, but I'm just going to throw it towards the plate, and it worked out. So I still get kind of like adrenaline or excited when I think about that moment. And that's probably something that I'll remember forever for sure. So
投手への転向によって今までと違った扉が開いたエドワーズ選手。そこからどのようにして日本に来ることになったのかをお聞きしました。
was playing with the Indians, and then I enjoyed my time there in Cleveland. They have a great organization and do a really good job with their players. And I started getting open to coming to Japan. I had a little bit of interest from the Seibu Lions in 2018, which was my first year back with the Indians, and the Indians weren't willing to part with me and let me go. So they actually, after that happened, called me up to the big leagues, and I finished in the big leagues with them and did well. And so went into the next season with them really excited in 2019, and kind of was on that roller coaster going up and down between the major leagues and the minor leagues, and wasn't really sure what I was going to, if I was even going to continue to play after that season. I wasn't, because as we have had more children and our kids start getting older, it gets a little harder, especially if you're, there, you go up and down. A lot of times that means you're literally moving from one city to the other. And sometimes that's a week to week process. So sometimes my wife would be taking my kids to Cleveland and staying in a hotel in Cleveland and not knowing if we're going to be there for a day or a month, or the rest of the season. So those things get a little hard sometimes, but anyways, after I got let go by them or DFA'd in the offseason, I became a free agent again, and got a phone call eventually from the Tigers. First, I had actually signed with the Houston Astros to go to spring training with them for the 2020 season. And a few days later, I got a call from my agent about coming to Japan and playing for the Tigers. And we prayed about it and decided that it was a right fit, and felt like God was leading us in this direction. So we came on over and have been enjoying it ever since. So
ジェットコースターのような生活から日本に来て改めて野球を楽しんでいるんですね。次にエドワーズ選手の野球のコア、大事にしていることについて伺いました。
I would say the core of baseball is the fundamentals. The better that you can do the fundamentals, the simple things that, I think the better. It's like, again, it's that foundation that you lay. And if you have good fundamentals and you're good at that, I think you have the best chance of winning. I listened to a podcast, and they were talking about Michael Jordan, and he talked about how Michael Jordan did the fundamentals every day. He started practice with a chest pass. And the reason he started with the chest pass is for exactly what I just said, because he said that he had to be the absolute best at the fundamentals of playing the game. If he didn't do if he wasn't perfect at the fundamentals or the best at the fundamentals, that he wouldn't be able to consistently win. And so I think if anybody that applies to anything, if you can do the fundamentals, the easy things well, you learn that when you're a kid, you hear it when you're a kid, and it might sound kind of cliche, but it's really true. Just being able to do those things, catch the ball, throw the ball, field the ball, run the bases, swing the bat, just the simple things, it'll take you a long way.
最後に、現在ファームでの選手生活を送っているエドワーズ選手に今の心境を伺いました。
We have a good team this year. Our team's competitive, and that's one of the things about playing in Japan is we have, I guess, 4 or 5 roster spots on the major league team, and we have a lot of foreigners that are doing well. And so, as far as the me being in the minor leagues and stuff like that, it's one of those things where, again, you learn. I went up and down so many times in the big leagues, in the minor leagues, in the States, and those decisions are not my decisions. Like we talk about it all the time, they're not things that I can really control. And the minute I start trying to control that, I get frustrated because it's not something I can, the best way I can influence that decision is just by working hard and playing well, adding value to the team. The more value I can add to the team, the more likely I am to kind of be a priority or stick, So, but the good thing is for the Tigers is that we have a lot of good players. We have good foreigners and guys that are doing well, and of course, I would never wish anybody to get hurt or anything like that, but just understanding the nature of the game, like that happens all the time. So you just have to be ready whenever they call and say, hey, we need you, because you just don't know. I've had it happen to me on both sides.
エドワーズ選手のエピソードはまだまだ続きます。そして次回はエドワーズ選手からのプレゼント企画もあります。どうぞお楽しみに。それではまた。